Let's take a look at the special buffers feature in the Surface Editor. So I'm going to head over to the Surface Editor, and if we go to the Advanced tab, we have special buffers, and when we click on that, we have special buffer 1, 2, 3, and 4, and we've got some input fields here with some mini sliders. Now, by default, it doesn't matter what we do to this. We can input all kind of values, and it's not going to affect our surfaces or our renders in any way. These are specifically tied to pixel and image filters over in the processing tab. Let me close this down and hit Control F8. And so basically they're tied to pixel filters and image filters. Okay, and so what we really need to do is apply one of these or a couple of these so we can see exactly how to set it up over here in the special buffers. Let's go ahead and do just a raw render without any kind of filters. And what we can see here is we've got some reflection. We've got several different surfaces, and we've got some reflection going on and a little bit of specularity. But let's start with the reflections. I want to apply an image filter that's going to affect the reflections in my render. Okay, so I'm going to head over to Control F8, and under Add Image Filter, let's choose Soften Reflections. So I want to soften these reflections. If I double click, I'm going to use the default settings here, okay, with 100% softness. And let's go ahead and do a render. And we can see if I use page up and page down on the keyboard, we can kind of toggle between the two. You can see it's softened all of my reflections. Now, what if I don't want it to affect all of my surfaces? Okay, well, I can adjust that. So what I'll do is double click to get to the properties of the soften reflections, and I'm going to use scale by surface buffer. Okay, so I'll activate that, and now when I do my render, it's not blurring anything because I'm telling it to go use the values over in the special buffers. So let's head over to the special buffers, and I've split the floor into two different pieces just so we can kind of see there. So I'm going to pick the floor left, which would be right over here, and let's go to special buffers. Now buffer 1, let's take a look. I'm going to open up Control F8 and move this over here, and then open up special buffers. Buffer 1 is looking for the very first filter in the list. Okay, so right now this is the only field that changing will affect anything because I don't have 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's go ahead and type in, well, let's go 100%. Okay, and let's do a render. So if we look, this half is blurred and this half isn't because this is the surface that I applied that to. Let's go ahead and blur this area right here. This is the pupil. So I'm going to go over to pupil, special buffers, and let's do 100% there. Okay, so we're blurring this surface and this surface, but not the other surfaces. So it allows me, the special buffers in this case are kind of like a mask. I'm masking out the areas that I want to affect or the areas that I don't want to affect. Okay, so that's one of the filters that takes advantage of the special buffers. Let's take a look at another one, and we're going to go ahead and leave this on here because then we can see that we can use the second special buffer, this input field right here. Okay, so I'm going to go back over to Control F8, which is our processing tab, and I'm going to leave this one going, and I'm going to turn on, let's use Corona. Corona is like bloom, except you have far more control. So it's kind of an advanced bloom. And let's go ahead and use the default settings. Actually, you know what? Just so that we can really see it, and I don't necessarily suggest to do this, but I'm going to crank up the strength to 200 and the size, let's go 50. We're just going to go and kind of blow this sucker out. And I'll do a render. And so we got our render, and now it's going to be applying the corona, and you can really see it. See how it's just blooming? It's blowing out the bright surface. Okay, so let's go ahead and see it's blowing out down here too. So we've got it blowing out in multiple places. But you know what? I'm going to blow it out here as well. So I'm going to go over to the pupil, and let's change it from black to white, and let's change the luminosity. Let's go 30. Okay, and let's see, and the diffuse, I'm going to set that to 80. Just trying to really brighten this surface. Okay, so now it's gonna blow out this area as well. Okay, and it's taking a little bit longer because we've got more area to cover. Okay, there we go. And so now I've got all kind of stuff blowing out. It's a little extreme, but I want you to be able to see what's happening here. Okay, let's go back over. Let's kind of use the special buffers as a masking tool. So I'm going to go back to Control F8, and for Corona, the threshold mask, I'm going to set that. There's all kind of options, but I'm going to set it to special buffer. Okay, so now it's going to be looking for the information over there. So let's do a quick render. Okay, it's really quick because it's not applying it anywhere because of it's got 0 in that setting. So let's go ahead and let's add it to the pupil area, this front part right here. Notice I still have the blur here. You're not really seeing the blur here because I've blown it out with luminosity and I raised the diffuse, but the reflection's still there and it's being blurred. But let's go to the pupil and we'll go over to Advanced Special Buffers. And we can change the buffer 1, but that's going to change the reflection. So we really need to change buffer 2 because that's the second. Let's just take a look. Control F8 and okay, see, so 1 2 1 2. So I'm going to change this. Let's go 100, and we might go higher than that, but let's take a look. Okay, so now it's applying Corona. See, we can see the percentage there, and now we've got it there. Okay, so notice that it's blowing out here, but it's not blowing out here. Okay, because we've masked it. Let's go ahead and add just a little here. Let's not go too high here. So that would be the eye surface special buffer. Okay, we've got 0 in buffer 1 because we're not blurring the reflections there, but we still skip that. We go down to 2 and let's do 50. So we're going to do 50% for that value. So we'll have 2 different values, one for the front, which is the pupil, and one for the back, which is labeled as eye. Okay, so see, we've got a lot more here than here. So we're able to control it on a per surface basis, taking advantage of the special buffers. Okay, so you'll want to take a look at any of the pixel or image filters that you're using to see if they take advantage of the special buffers. So if you've ever wanted to know what this special buffers button is all about, well, there you go. You can use it to further control pixel and image filters in the processing tab by coming over to the surface editor, advanced, and it's per surface.